Court is now in session. Thank you for coming to the Challengers League court. Today, we in fact have the top laner of Wildcard, Zamudo. Zamudo, you are accused of having purchased 0 control wards this season. How do you plead?
I plead guilty.
Guilty?
Yeah.
Guilty?
Yeah.
Pleads guilty. Do you feel this is the appropriate number of control wards to be purchasing?
Nah, I mean, control words, completely useless. Like, I'm just trying to buy my damage items, and then we win. GG.
Another witness from another team saying that you have been putting down your yellow trinkets as late as 6 minutes into the game.
Yellow trinkets are a crutch for bad players.
We are calling Dombre to the stand.
Honestly, I think I'm a fan. If you're like a carry top laner, like buying pink 75 gold, it's like not worth it.
You say that as a carry top laner, you can spend that gold on more damage items, but are you aware that your top laner has played 7 games of Gragas this season?
Oh, I mean, he's got to get the items. It's okay. Like tank items, they're pretty OP. You soak up the damage, so I guess it's fine.
Keel to the stand. Could you give us a character witness as to whether or not this is appropriate behavior from your top laner?
Given how he uses the words he has, I think it's very appropriate, yeah. Today we told him the word Herald and he failed the word over the wall. I think it's a great decision. To be fair, Zamudo is pretty good about using blue trinkets. Deligo and Dombre overly buy words to compensate. I think Zamudo should just buy slightly more.
Deligo, is there anything that you would like to say in his defense?
In his defense?
Or offense? If you want to be part of the prosecution, you can.
Yes, I think I might have to prosecute him for this. I don't think I've ever seen that before in my 4 years of being a pro player.
Are you aware that expert testimony LS upon this realization said good?
Yes, I am aware of that. Some people buy too many pink wards, and I think that some people buy too few pink wards, and that there is always a healthy balance, just like everything in life.
Lens, can you speak to some of the pain and anguish that this has caused you?
My top laner just playing for gold. He doesn't value pink ward. I think it has to be punished.
What do you think would be an appropriate sentence?
10 games of required to buy 2 pink wards every back.
The court hereby finds Zamudo guilty and sentences him to 10 games of community service. Court adjourned.
Josh, can
Where's
I
my gavel?
see that gavel?
I have
Very
a spoon.
stylish.
It's a dirty spoon.
Why is it dirty?
Wait, was it really?
Because I used it for oatmeal.
You know, it doesn't look too dirty, so at least
not too bad.
At least you finished your oatmeal. You didn't
Yeah.
leave it hanging on the spoon.
I do want to ask, what was the consequences for him being guilty of this, Josh?
10 games of buying 2 pink words every back. That's what we decided on. I had a lot of fun with the players every single time because I didn't start the interview wearing this. I would always ask them, what are the 2 things the judge needs? And well, almost everybody got the gavel, but most people didn't figure out that the wig was also the most important part of what a judge actually wears,
I love that everyone's references are judges from movies and TV shows, though, because I don't think I've ever seen a real-life judge nowadays wearing the wig.
I'll be the first.
I like the flare version, so go for it.
All right, let's move on to our second match of the day, and that's going to be Wildcard versus Supernova. Let's get the rosters going for Wildcard. I always think of them as kind of, I don't know, like interlopers. You're not supposed to be here, but they're the team that responds with, well, who's going to stop us, Josh?
Yeah, that's a good question. They keep consistently upsetting a lot of expectations people had around this. And I think Keel said it best last year when he was like, yeah, I mean, this team is doing really well. We did really well when we were playing as AoE Ginger Turmeric. I don't know why people are surprised that we're continuing to have success. And they're currently sitting in 2nd place. I asked a lot of them, like, do you feel like that's appropriate for how well you've been playing? They were all like, yeah, I mean, honestly, if we didn't lose to Supernova in the first round robin, we'd probably be first.
That's pretty true right there, and good segue. On top of it, their opponents on the Rift, Supernova, currently sitting in last place, but the potential in players such as the Collegiate Champ, Robbie Bob, or the Solo Bolo Master Quacker over there, it has led to them taking games off some of the top squads in our league, Gabby.
I think it's been a difficult team to predict for sure coming in. So when you see them take those top games, you think, okay, this is where we see the strengths of, as you mentioned, Robbie Bob being a collegiate champion. We were just talking in the previous matchup of how Trevor was able to serve the team of Fear and kind of be that leader and trying to bring that voice to this roster. And then some of the more newer tested talents like Quacker coming into the fray, you know, obviously the role swap and swap from Sketch. But Supernova coming through and giving us some surprises here and there.
Yeah, you like to see it. It's developing players. You're not going to have that consistency right out the gate, but you do see that potential in taking those wins off the top teams, as you have said, Gabby. But despite being last place, there's a lot of questions as to how they performed in terms of expectations. Now, this is where we kind of get into a weird sort of paradox, if you will. Being last place, it's expected to be below expectations, right? But as we mentioned before, 2-0 against Wildcard, ties against Team Liquid and FlyQuest, Supernova have shown that they can swing above their weight class, Josh.
And I definitely didn't just scramble to get this up because I totally remember that I was actually doing this presentation. But we have an important question for everyone in this first round robin. Is Supernova failing? And we got to preface this, right? They are currently in last place, having gone 6-12. But we also got to give them a little bit of a buffer. We got to give a little, oops, wrong button. That button. That button. We got to give them a little bit more context in that, right? This is a team that has been plagued by a little bit of staff turnover. Over the past couple of weeks, starting off, they have had 2 different head coaches and a total of 4 different assistant coaches actually contributing to it. And that is both before and after the season has actually started. They've had multiple different managers as well throughout this short time. There hasn't been a lot of stability coming out from this roster. Additionally, this is a team that has the least experience of play in the tier 2 or above. The only players who have had a lot of experience coming through so far are, and I say a lot, Sketch and Trevor. And we gotta say that Sketch, again, remember that this is a guy who was playing support throughout most of spring before transitioning back to AD carry. And Trevor, while last split was his first split in this tier, played for Cloud9 previously as a substitute, and Robbie Bob only played as a sub for Evil Geniuses last split. They're averaging less than a split of experience in tier 2 before we've actually come in. And Eric, to kind of top it off, with all of this, people were kind of expecting that Supernova was going to be one of the bottom teams, but we are also expecting them to be somewhere on terms of CLG Faith, based on what we had seen from them before. And guess what? They're doing so much better. They've been beating top half teams rather consistently. We've been able to see them take a 2-0 against Wildcard. They went 1-1 against FlyQuest, and they also went 1-1 against Maryville. These teams have all been top half of the table so far. And I gotta say, even though Supernova is in last, for me, this is a massive overperformance from the squad based on what we've seen from them so far. I don't think anybody was really expecting them to have picked up this many wins in the first round robin. If they can continue this kind of dominance going into the second half of the split, Supernova is a team where you're really going to have to look out for the development that these players can continue to show.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen the production chat pop up with like, Supernova won that game, and I just freak out and I have to tune in to the stream as fast as possible. It can be so surprising, but someone else who's surprising, well, 2 players who are surprising. Let's start with one over in the top side. That is going to be Zamudo, who has been on fire this split. This is someone who slotted in the same place Moose Hater was. We're questioning how wacky are some of these drafts going to get. For the most part, it's been a lot of Gragas play, but man, is he a solid wall over in that top lane.
Yeah. And one of the things that I love watching about Zamudo is his willingness to try a bunch of different things. While his Gragas has been one of his best characters, it's been banned out from him quite a bit. He actually only played 1 game of Gragas in week 3. But I pulled up that last clip, right? Actually, if it's possible, Jay, if we can get that one played again, I kind of want to highlight how he is so good on some of the minutia that he can play on this Gragas that he interrupts not just one of Shochi's dashes, but 2 of them over this play. And that absolutely turns the player who is our main character into someone that doesn't actually have an opportunity to play.
Feel like this is why Shochi was saying in the interview.
Yeah.
Even though it just faced them, I can't wait to duke it out with this team, saying, those are my boys, but clearly gave them a little bit of a treatment last time around.
Yeah, man, you always love it when they banter because that means they're ready to fight it out. Someone else wants to fight. That is Quacker. This dude has been kind of nutty over there in the top side. I mean, the amount of solo kills he's getting, I believe he's tied for second. I got to double check on that because we're going over solo kills stats all day in the pre-show. But this dude is absolutely amazing with the performance he's been having. A real good bright spot on Supernova.
And Gabby, one of the things that I think has been so impressive about Quacker is he hasn't actually played the game nearly as much as a lot of the other people who are playing at this level, right? Quacker is also somebody who has been pursuing degrees in the medical sciences, and he has been still able to come back every single time he takes a break from his studies and decides to play some more League of Legends. He's able to play at the top of the Tier 3 and now coming into Tier 2, and watching Quacker actually beast up on a lot of the players that have been around for a little longer than he has definitely been a strong point here for Supernova, and now both of these rookies coming through have been very exciting so far in their limited time we've actually been seeing them.
Hey, you know, there's a top laner in the LCS that has a reputation as going to med school and getting that education and then becoming a professional player. Goes by the name of Revenge. It is not an unknown pathway, so really cool when you see, you know, players that are picking up the game kind of in the later stages. I think that some index into, oh yeah, those that are playing 10 years are always going to be better. But then you have JoJo's, right, that transferred from other games in technically less time and really catching up. So I'm excited to see what Quacker ends up doing, now becoming a more familiar face in the scene.
You never know who's going to be that next big talent to pop into the LCS space. Well, I'm just hearing that the draft is ready, so can Wildcard get the revenge, or Supernova still going to scrap it out with them? We're going to find out right now. Gabby, go ahead and take it away.
Let's go!
Let's go!
Game number 1, Wildcard versus Supernova. I always find it so interesting, Joshi, how I feel like for years now, Wildcard has been treated as the wild card. They're always upsetting. But I'm like, how long does a team upset before they no longer upset? Does it have to do with their name being Wildcard and feeling like they always have to fulfill that role in their matchups, or is there something more?
I mean, I think it really is, like, once you have a reputation, it's so hard to shake it, right? And Wildcard has been a team that has been consistently overperforming what their reputation would have made you believe. And I think a big part of that, right, has been the fact that Keel in particular has really been resetting his own narrative. He was a player that we always knew was playing pretty well, but a recent tweet from Coach Spawn where he says Keel is the most underrated player in the entire Challengers League, I think has really helped open up a lot of eyes towards people. And something that we love hyping up is that Keel, well, it's too early to say, based on his performance in first round robin, is already in our discussions for somebody that we would talk about for the most valuable prospect of summer.
And I remember watching Keel, you know, back in like CLG Academy days and seeing, okay, what can this player do? And you love to see that evolution of an identity. And I think that right now, when you have picks like Kindred being very popular, obviously banned away against Keel, considering that he has a 100% win rate on the pick. But that is one of those metas where junglers do get to shine, because yes, there's the facilitative aspect that's still doing well, the Sejuanis, the Ivern coming on through, but you can play things like the Kindred to be that carry for your team. And Keel showing both sides of that coin is going to do very well for him in creating this reputation that is being emphasized by people like Coach Spawn that are giving him his props when they're due.
And with all that said, I also kind of want to put out that now Wildcard is absolutely not an underdog in this particular series, right? It would be remiss of us to say that we are expecting Supernova to take a game. That said, they did 2-0 Wildcard last time, and we were feeling very similarly about that in the first time these guys actually played up against each other. It was a fantastic showing coming out from Supernova, and in particular, one of the places that I have been really surprised, again, is Quacker up here in the top lane. He's a player that we knew was going to be pretty decent, but wasn't necessarily even one of the players we were saying, this is the guy that we need to be seeing in Tier 2 based on the previous time in Tier 3. Supernova took a little bit of a risk on this player, and so far he's been paying off amazingly. And now going up against Zamudo, another one of these rookies that we have also been very excited about, is starting to create a situation where Quacker can play for massive advantages in the top lane.
Yeah, and different identities as players so far, right? You can just, when looking at their champion pool, Quacker, when Supernova did 2-0 Wildcard, it was pretty convincing. It was a 29-08 and 29-22 finishes. The first game had complete control over all neutral objectives. I think they only dropped a couple in the second game, and both of those were Cassante games from Quacker, which is where a lot of the top laners that have been the most impressive across all levels of professional play have been executing well on that pick that has a high skill ceiling and can have that aggression as well as that beefiness to be able to hold it down for the squad. But different looks as we evolve and go into the second round robin, and top lane's identity also shifts as well. But I do want to see how these top laners end up duking it out, especially coming off of a series that was very aggressive in the top lane just because of the nature of those players.
Yeah. And the other thing that I kind of wanted to highlight, right, it wasn't just that Supernova was beating Wildcard, it was doing it while Wildcard was on some of their most comfortable characters. We saw that Saligo got the Lissandra that has been one of his most played and definitely his most dominant character of all time. And he was doing it into Robbie Bob's Ahri, which is supposed to be a really good matchup here for the Lissandra. And while Saligo was able to win that, it was kind of the rest of the map that really started to struggle. And as we start moving to the second half of the draft, Supernova are setting up for whoever ends up playing this Tristana. It's more likely to go to Sketch than it is to Robbie Bob, but they are giving them a very strong front line to play with. And Wildcard are going to need to be very careful about how they approach some of these front to backs, because yes, Lens is going to be able to put out a lot of damage, but Wildcard is a team that is mostly focused on trying to shut down a lot of the aggressive tools coming out from other teams.
Yeah, and we'll see what they end up bringing to be able to shut down those aggressive tools, because as you're calling out that Tristana more likely to go towards Sketch, Robbie Bob does like the control mages, leans in a bit of a different direction compared to what we saw from Shochi, for instance, in that previous matchup. But on the side of Wildcard, when you're looking at what you need to shut down, Lens on the Xayah. Xayah is somebody who so readily displays whether a bot laner can position properly or not in a fight because of the way that you want to use that Feather Storm and the Blade Collar, and Lens is good at doing that. And when paired with the Rakan in the laning phase, and then having that front line and Sejuani to be able to fall behind, I'm sure Wildcard will be looking at that strength, but also bringing it to the draft on the other side as it continues to develop. We were wondering what Quacker was going to bring in that top lane, and it looks like the Renekton will be able to make an appearance in this one.
And I'm looking over to see if there's anything in production about what Wildcard was banning here, or whether or not they lost it for some reason or another. But oh my gosh, I was getting ready to talk about how Zamudo had an opportunity to play the Gragas. It is a historically very good matchup against the Renekton and one of Zamudo's best characters, but I mean, we've seen Zamudo being willing to play marksman up in the top lane. He's known for his Aphelios up in the top lane, but we also got to see his Akshan earlier this season, and now it is going to be the Quinn as well. Now, I'm sure you remember when this was all the rage up in the top half of the map, Gabby, when Renektons, particularly in the LPL, were being matched by this Quinn, and Wildcard, they are saying, we are so confident in our four-man squad's ability to win these team fights that we are going to allow Zamudo to do his own thing the entire game. And Supernova, they have some really scary engage. If they're the ones calling the shots, they can kill multiple members of Wildcard outright.
Yeah. Very different toolkits here. You have that wild engage, the Quinn responding to that top lane matchup, but also some, traditional approach with the Sejuani and that bot lane. What do you make of this overall, Joshi?
I really like Supernova's chances in this game, right? This is the kind of thing, Tristana plus the Ziggs is one of my favorite combinations to watch, because every single time they walk up to a turret, it disappears. There is no real way to defend against these other than by engaging really heavily onto them. And at the same time, while Zamudo does have a lot of freedom to navigate up in the top lane, I mean, you just lob a Ziggs ult if you need to. It's like, all right, well, that wave's pushing now. We're good. Thank you for your time, Zamudo. We are now going to engage on the rest of your team. And Wildcard, they have some really good tools. Saligo is on a character that's good to stop flanks, but it's really hard for them to just line up and siege against a lot of the range and engage tools the Supernova have drafted for themselves.
Well, I want to find out how it's going to go down in this match. Wildcard, Supernova popping off here. Again, remember Supernova did get the 2-0 against Wildcard during the first round robin, but the expectation based on performance throughout this split thus far is that Wildcard would come out on top. Also worth noting that the only two series that Wildcard dropped as a 2-0 were against Supernova as well as Team Liquid, which is the number 1 team. Any other losses were split as a draw.
Yeah, and yeah, it looks like it was confirmed to be a no ban previously coming out from Wildcard. And look at this from Zamudo as well. Going with a Cull and a Cleanse. Very confident up here in the top half of the map. Just knows that the only real way he ever dies is if Music is coming up towards the top half of the map. And of course, Music reticent to start the queue at level 1 because of how bad it is for your actual play. is in a really tough spot. And look at that. It's the wave hasn't even gotten there, Gabby.
Range up here in the top lane. I mean, I think Zamudo is one of the top laners we would expect to make this adaptation because of the versatility within the pool he has introduced thus far. The Akshan coming out, playing things like the Fiora, and then now the Quinn. Quinn is actually why, last week, I had to buy a Dignitas jersey because Dig locked in Quinn for Rich in the top lane in the LCS. True. And then I tweeted, all right, if Rich pops off on the Quinn, then I'll buy a Dignitas jersey.
Let's go. And
then I had to buy one. Yeah. I think Rich, I'm feeling a little bit of that spiritual connection between Zamudo and Rich, just in that willingness to play unique picks. And I think that comes from a lot when they are getting introduced. Rich, obviously, being a player that came from Heroes of the Storm and then coming through, but with a fresh perspective. Zamudo being a newer player as well to Tier 2 here and coming after that bootcamp in Korea and really trying to diversify skills and that open mindset, then I feel like you're more primed to bring out these picks and answers.
I also want to point out that the player that told us that Zamudo was not using the yellow trinket was a Team Liquid Challengers APA, as Robbie Bob doing a lot of damage here to Sligo. Doesn't quite get the kill, but as Keel comes into the mid lane.
Let's answer Robbie Bob. Flash for flash. First blood for Soligo here.
Alright, I got a lot to say. First off, this has been Robbie Bob's primary weakness, regardless of what league he's playing in, right? It can be in the Challengers League, it can be in Collegiate. He dies to this gank more than probably any other mid laner. But I also want to point out that Zamudo, he used his ward really early, but it's not for the to stop the junglers from coming up. It's actually just to be more lane dominant. I feel it says a lot about the player. But here, Keel, really good read on Robbie Bob, knows that as he goes for this play, it's really tough for Tristana to get out once you've already committed the W forward. Now getting the reset on it, has no tools, and with the matching flash, make sure that the Tristana will not be as successful as Shochi's.
When you're hyper-focused on the damage output of something like an explosive charge at this point and you see the impact that it can have on your lane opponent, it's easy to get a little bit of tunnel vision, and tunnel vision is significantly punished in the mid lane because of the multiple access points for junglers, and in that case, Keel was putting Robbie Bob in a position that he's seen multiple times prior and now punished early on, which leads to a 1,000 gold lead for a wild card currently. Zamudo increasing that CS lead in the top lane because of that range and in this matchup. A slight lead for Music, but of course there was that assist granted to Keel by that play made across mid, and Lens pulling up ahead in this matchup versus Sketch. Trevor trying to go in and get some more poke here.
It definitely feels a little bit desperate coming out from Supernova already, right? The way that they're trying to play some of these fights, you were really hoping that Tristana would be able to establish a lead here in the mid lane, but at the same time as bottom lane, how do you play with against it?
Ombre going on in, Heel ready to follow. Trevor taken out of it, use the flash too.
Yeah, I mean, great stuff. The Xayah Rakan super dominant here in the bottom lane. The Quinn super dominant up in the top lane as well, and is now establishing a freeze up against Quacker. So where do you even go as the Renekton try and make things happen? This mid lane is the only place on the map that was by default a bit of a tougher matchup for Wildcard, and now, I mean, it is... I mean, that's where Keel came. They got the first blood. They gave the kill over to the mid laner, and suddenly Soligo taking so much more control here as well. I'm not sure where Supernova really creates space from this position, right? Where do you find your advantage? You're really going to have to full send it when you start getting these level 6s.
And until then, just playing a bit safely. That's why the wards are kind of placed at that line of scrimmage. Multiple controls in this bot side river. Poppy Bob having to sidestep some of the damage. Soligo just hitting 6 and trying to draw in with the shockwave. But it's all in potential setup of this dragon. If one of the teams can get a pick or just control over the vision here, then they can try and set up for an early one.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of thing where we aren't necessarily even needing to see... Oh, that's not an ultimate. That's the nearsighted thing. I was like, what is that? You don't see Quinn particles all that often.
I know, right? Whenever old ones come back in, it's like, oh, my eyes need adjusting again.
Yeah.
But luckily, I actually play with someone who their favorite champ is Quinn, so
nice.
Familiar face to me, but not face down here in the bot lane yet. Sketch doesn't have to worry about Quinn. You have to worry about Lens and Dombre.
Yeah.
I also love when there's a little bit of a thematic nature to a comp. You know,
Yeah.
the birds in the bot lane. You got the bird
versus
pairing
Yordles?
action. Yeah. Oh yeah, lots of Yordles on the other side. 3 of them. Dang.
3 of them. And now looking for Robbie.
You only need 3 in the current
Nice.
CFT comp to be able to activate it. Robbie, Yordle in trouble though, and has music.
I wonder what convinced Keel to stop fighting there. It definitely felt like a fight that they could have won with no flash, no rocket jump for Robbie Bob, but either way, they do end up backing away up in the top side as well. Zamudo actually having a smaller lead than I would have expected, considering how little jungle attention has been going over to the top side.
Yeah, it looked like for a bit Zamudo was really keeping up that pressure on Quacker, but then when we briefly went up, it looked like Quacker was trying to get some of the trades of damage as much as he could, and because of that, 59 to 54 CS over on the top side. Music going through his own jungle there too, while Keel remains on this bot side. Wards are in the favor of Wildcard and potentially setting up for the dive here. Echo Inferno Bomb thrown down. Sketch already marked to half HP, but Dombre taking the bulk of the tower shots. Wildcard, though, successful in executing this dive. They want to make it the 2 for 0.
Oh,
Good
no,
juggling
Dombre!
at first until Dombre takes the majority of it. Luckily has some healing available with the Gleaming Quill and able to get out before another shot hit him.
And this is just a dominating performance so far from Wildcard, just kind of across the map. We do see Music trying to go for the Rift Herald.
Shockwave draws in, but Robbie Bob
Whoa.
holding on to that rocket jump to get out and popping the sustain just to be able to position safely between the turrets before backing, but seems like maybe he's getting some intel to stick around a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, Music doesn't even get the Rift Herald off of that. It is going to be going over towards Wildcard. Feeling a little bit like Hank Hill as well. Wow, every single time, you know, Robbie barely staying alive from the pressure from Saligo, but again, the question remains, where does Supernova find their leads? We know where Team Fish Taco does, though. We know that they just full send these really big fights. They group up as a unit, and then that's where they find their opportunities back in. Supernova are going to have to try and do something similar. Now, luckily for them, because of their composition, every single time they do find a winning team fight, it's not just going to be the team fight that they're winning, they're also going to get, like, probably 2 structures, just on account of having both the Tristana and the Ziggs. But they got to find some of these fights, and Dombre is just continuously pushing, and we are seeing a 3,000 gold lead at 9 minutes with, honestly, not that many kills.
Yeah, they've all been kills that were executed by Wildcard, really. I mean, the most recent one being that dive, and I think that Supernova are starting to see that gold run away from them a bit, and right now their attempt to answer is by sticking to this dragon. Dombre continually using just the pattern that Rakan offers, both to trade in lane, but also get in and out to seek this intel. Wildcard are aware of Supernova's positioning onto the Drake and sticking to it. And the question is, do they just want to give it to try and get some more shoves on the waves?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to end up giving it. Unfortunately, Gabby, this is a little bit closer to what we were expecting coming out from Supernova at the beginning of the split. And I think their ability to play well has been really attributed to times where they have confidence in... okay, that was not as bad of a static shift as I was expecting. But this is one of those opportunities where you look at Quacker. He can't be feeling confident in this matchup because, like, what does he do? Robbie Bob, after going down relatively early on, is already building a Vampiric Scepter, which is not the Tristana item, right? You really want to be aggressive with how you're trying to play early on in the lane. The Vampiric Scepter, you spend so much money on lifesteal that it doesn't end up giving you the opportunity to be aggressive. Ziggs is doing okay, but has already been dove underneath their own turret and has only picked up a single plate. If I'm going to be looking at Supernova and players that I'm expecting to really try and turn this game around, it's actually going to be Trevor, right? Just like NXI had a couple of really big ultimates in Game 1, it has to be one of their shot callers trying to make these plays.
But Keel's the one coming in, the Glacial Prison. Good follow-up from the team to share some of the action. And Sketch is eliminated. Trevor and Music coming from the fountain, but cannot contest the plays that Wildcard are making on this bot side. Keel getting so much off of his ganks. And I think that is partly where these margins are allowing Wildcard to extend this lead so significantly. No time wasted by the jungler. Soligo having to outrun some of the damage from Robbie Bob, but as you were saying before, Joshi, when it comes to Tristana, we were talking about it during the last match, how she does struggle when she's behind. She doesn't get to fully capitalize upon the scaling of that passive, had to pivot the build to something a bit more defensive, which will affect the way she's able to clear the lanes, and seeing if somebody elsewhere on the map can try to assert that pressure while Robbie Bob is suffering. Soligo heavily up in farm.
Get him. No flash.
Charm, hit him with the quickness, my friend. Sketch just does not get to stay in lane for long. Keel is staying in lane longer than Sketch is at this point over the past few minutes.
Yeah, and we get to see Keel. I mean, we get to see parts of why he's having so much success. When I did part of the interview for the Challengers League court, one of the things that he was saying that clicked for him recently was when he could be aggressive, when he could move between lanes to actually go for ganks. And we are starting to see the jungle surfing come through as, oh no, Quacker. I mean, just struggling brutally up in this top side. But Keel is surfing from lane to lane. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to go hit my bottom lane camp. All right, time to go hit my mid lane camp. The only camp he hasn't been going for at all is the top lane camp, and that's because Zamudo is doing a fine job all on his own. Gotta be careful now, though. Does have cleanse.
Music stepping up to Zamudo. Got a blast cone. Ooh, Music locks on, though, for a moment's time. Curse of the Sad Mummy has been used already, but Zamudo is outnumbered. Treasure going on in, stuns him up.
Let's go.
Slashed on down. Zamudo eliminated. So Supernova working to alleviate some of that pressure. They also were able to grab both summoners.
Yeah. Ultimately, it was a lot expended, but you need every bit of gold that you can. Wildcard not going to be losing a whole lot more than just Zamudo's life. And now, the jungle support moving together.
Inferno Bomb gets a hit onto...
Oh! What?
I feel like that's as far apart as they can be for them to both get those kills just because of how that ended up working out.
That was so funny. That was always one of my favorite ways to kill people as Ziggs back in like season 5 was the mortar auto attacks. You just throw it and it goes super far. Good job from Supernova to continue trying to find things in the mid lane and across the board, but they are still falling further and further behind as more and more gold is being funneled over into Wildcard's 80 carries. Lens picked up another structure for themselves, and they are here in perfect time to grab the Herald as well. As we take another look at this one, Comet goes super far. Oh, is it the Leandri's burn? It's the Leandri's burn.
Leandri's Anguish putting in the work. Ooh, another good ultimate from Keel. Good use of that mobility from Sketch, though, so that Wildcard can't continue. But Zamudo has officially been unlocked from lane at this point. Supernova has responded by sending Robbie Bob towards top side. He's fallen so behind that the hope is to try to shore up some of that deficit by getting some time alone in the side lane while the majority of Wildcard keep their focus across mid.
Yeah. But so far, I mean, we got to praise the members of Wildcard. They've done a good job. Keel, again, looking fantastic this game. Just the ability to move all over the place. Also, Lens and Dombre really beasting up down in the bottom lane and making sure that they can build the lead they are supposed to have with their champions, not allowing Sketch to get much damage on their structure at all. And now, as Supernova, they are here for the Dragon first, but this is a really tough take for them to try and go for. The engage from Wildcard, even with their ults down, might be enough to dissuade them.
The first Dragon was kind of given over willingly by Wildcard because they were winning so significantly across their lanes, and now Supernova, though, they want to keep it going. Trevor tries to come in with Magnus Storm, multiple pulled back of Supernova, and Zamudo getting some action. 2 killed on the side of Supernova, but it is a trade with 1 on the opposite side. Dragon still up, and it's Keel that's going to be able to step up to it because there's no enemy jungler in sight. Lens grabbing that double.
And it looked Looked good from Trevor for a moment, but it's Soligo, the big hero of that fight. And Supernova, they get one, they get Dombre, they get the support, but all of the gold realistically going over to Wildcard once again. 16 minutes in, and an insane gold difference already building up for Wildcard. And one of the things that was interesting, right, is I did get the soundbite from them that they said if they had beaten Supernova in the first round robin, they would realistically be competing for first. At the beginning of today, they were still several games behind where Team Liquid was. They were 4 games behind, but still, those 2 extra games, putting them only 2 away, could have put them within spitting distance of the most dominant team that Tier 2 has ever seen. Not ever seen, but close to it.
Yeah, well, and I would love to see, you know, we're talking about that narrative and how it's been, but see some play here can really change that around.
Yeah. There we go. Shockwave catching 4 people. Dombre just on the side, he knows like, well, yeah, I'm about to explode. Go boom.
Kill.
And then after that, it's just a matter of trying to pick up every single kill they can on the backside. Lens flashing forward, able to find the kill over on Music, and a teleport from Robbie Bob keeps him alive. But still, small victories coming through. It's just these silver linings definitely aren't enough when Wildcard's getting all the gold.
So much gold for Wildcard, 7,000 lead, and now they've split the dragon, so that was really one of the only conditions that was working for Supernova that now will be all the more delayed. And Trevor's another attempt at a condition going into the back line, and they do manage to burn down Lens. A Wildcard, they had dropped down the Rift Herald. They finish off that turret. There have been a couple instances in which Supernova have gotten picks. That's why they have 4 kills on the board, but they have never been in a position to get an objective off of them.
And that's what I was kind of looking at before, right? I was saying if they ever are in a spot where they are winning these fights, it turns into way more than just a one fight. They should be getting structures. They should be getting objectives off of it.
And Wildcard instead, they're reaping all of the rewards. Zamudo on mid, just picking away at Ziggs, and Robbie Bob was forced off of that top side while Dombre and Soligo couldn't get the kill. They still did assert some more of that pressure.
Yeah. Just asserting control over the map. I mean, I gotta say, Gabby, if this game goes another 30 minutes, I do favor Supernova again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you're looking at what Supernova has to work with, it all, to me, comes down to an ult from Amumu or an ult from Trevor in these team fights. You'll eventually, even with Tristana being behind, gold does even out at some point, and it's all about when that gold is in the pocket. Even if Soligo is managing to get a lot right now, Robbie Bob will eventually reach a power spike, and between that and what Sketch can do on the Ziggs, you can burn down Wildcard if they are locked. So the problem is you do have to be so scared of basically what happened previously. Good shockwaves, good knockups like you're seeing onto Music right now.
Nice dodge.
But yeah, an attempt to hit with a Q here. But Wildcard do have decent tools in their kit to be able to affect these fights. We already saw what Soligo was able to do, as well as Keel with a couple of really good Glacial Prisons.
Yeah. We also gotta give some praise to Dombre, constantly playing on the edge of what it is that Supernova can actually do, dodging out of multiple bandage tosses, the attempted engage from Trevor. But at this point, we are waiting for this Baron to actually spawn. Wildcard trying to take as much vision control as they can, take away a couple of these jungle camps from the members of Supernova, just to deny as much gold as possible. But they are able to do this one on spawn, right? They have Zamudo off on the side, and it's not even that they have to start up the Dragon or the Baron, but they just create so much pressure on both sides of the map that if Quacker tries to come and contest them around the Baron, it's just going to be multiple structures actually going down. And now Wildcard already starting it up, but trying to use Dombre as a blocker.
And Dombre has been very good at being that blocker. I think he does definitely deserve those props. Music wants to try to go in for the take, but Keel is able to secure, which means Music, even on the exit, Dombre is still here, manages to acquire the knockup, and Soligo slams it. So an attempt from Supernova. When you're behind, you got to make something happen. So sending your jungler in to attempt to get the steal is one way to do it. But Wildcard just had the play in their hands the whole time.
Yeah. And honestly, you got to try, right? I respect it from Music. He was reasonably close, right? As let's see. Where did it get down to? Oh,
and now the Ziggs ult to try as well.
Yeah, 1300 off of that. Really tough smite to actually go for it. Single frame, it just bursted out, and oh, Sketch.
Yeah,
unlucky.
Sketch has had a rough go at it. I mean, Lens and Dombre had so much visitation from Keel during that lane. It felt like Sketch was just spending minutes walking back just to die again in some cases, some really good dives, and since then hasn't been able to get offline. Does have Leandri's built, is starting to work into something with the 2 items completed, the Shadow Flame, but I mean, Wildcard have just had gold advantage. They continue to sling around, and Zamudo is drawing a lot of attention from Supernova on this top side. 3 members at that, which means Wildcard, they feel good to push this on the bot side. They have the Turo Baron buff for another minute and a half plus. And look, Robbie Bob can't do anything about it, has to hop away, knows that Sketch has respawned. Keel does take a decent amount of damage, flashes and side
Teleport to mid.
steps. But Sully goes joining Keel and the rest of the team. Trevor over the wall, multiple magnets. Storm, Feather Storm thrown by Lens. Can he get the drawback? Look at the damage as it rains through. Keel is over the wall once again to keep safe. But 2 members traded for 1. Wildcard coming out on top
Lens.
so far. Double kill from Lens. Has used both sums and the ultimate, but got so much reward for it.
Wow, I mean, that was just about everything Supernova could have possibly done in order to try and win that fight. Now they're still getting teleported to end the game.
Yeah, they got him coming in. Len sticking around in Keel as well. Robbie Bob just, every time he's in range, just can feel that melting of his HP in the process. So that's 2 inhibitors taken for Wildcard. They're not going to overstay their welcome. Music just came back up, and Quacker's going to do so right now, but 13,000 gold lead for this team.
Yeah. Big props to Lens in this fight, actually, right? Using the Feather Storm at a fantastic spot, and the Blade Color doing a ton of damage, actually catching all 5 members with the root. Allows him to be super aggressive, to cleanse at a perfect time. The only thing that stops him from finding even more kills in this fight is the fact that Sketch did have a good satchel charge to prevent Lens from chasing. But Lens, I've been asking for him to take a bigger part in a lot of Wildcard's wins and a lot of their fights, and this is a fantastic example of what we've been looking for, the aggressive play, being willing to step forward when there are no threats left, and definitely finds himself a couple of extra kills. But now Zamudo has to be careful. Oh, Music has to be careful.
Oh, everyone's got to be careful. Zamudo gets stunned up as soon as he sees Music and the bomb from downtown, and Quacker gets rooted as soon as he tries to slice and dice out of it. Even with the Dominus pop, is going to fall. Music soon to follow. Wildcard winning out on the fight again. Trevor got completely zoned off, and they've already cracked so much open into this base. They're just waiting for those supers to join them.
Yeah. Zamudo trying to prevent Trevor from actually going for a reset, and should be able to find them again. Teleport down to the bot lane from Sketch to try and deny any minion waves from coming in.
Yep, he's trying to going, but Robbie Bob's just alone, facing 4 in the base then, and taken out of it. No Mega Inferno Bomb from Ziggs. That's the last turret taken down. Wildcard, they've got their sights on the Nexus now, doing what many were hoping they would do in game number 1 against Supernova.
Keel, deathless game on that one. Jungle surfing from lane to lane, picking up kills everywhere he goes. Lens stepping forward, having control there. I mean, this was just a really textbook game coming out from Wildcard. This is the Wildcard that is currently in second place, has total control over their games, and really just strangles people out. There were, a couple spots where we may have been able to clean things up a bit, but considering how well they did in the first half of the game, can't really fault them too much for it.
Yeah, it felt like Wildcard just had control in every lane, pretty much. The Quinn matchup into the Renekton was a great adaptation that Zamudo was ready to take full advantage of. Keel, extremely proactive with those plays, particularly around the bot lane, and then Robbie Bob just got suffocated in mid and never really able to be a threat in the way that you needed Tristana to be. And Supernova, they had a couple tools in the team fight, but those narrow corridors work so well for some of the ultimates for Wildcard, like the Feather Storm, to be able to punish that positioning.
Yeah. I mean, good stuff. Wildcard, we said that they were the favorites coming in. It was a surprise to us that they did, in fact, drop to Supernova in the first round robin. We'll see if Supernova can bounce back. If they do tie up this series, they do get the 1-1, it would speak a lot towards the potential future of this roster.
I'm ready to find out. We've got a little bit of a break before we do so, though. So hydrate, and we'll see y'all in a few minutes.